everyone. I I have John here with me today, John Rinaldo.
Hi.
John is a past. Okay, all right. Thank you all for coming. We have Sandra, we have Cherie. Okay, we have Tom Baris Simmons. Okay, we have Claire. Alvis here with us. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm here with I'm here with John Rinaldo, and he is a passionate writer, artist, and storyteller, inspiring others through words and art. So, talk to us, John, about your leadership journey.
Well, it's been, let's start with my education. I guess that's where it's kind of funny because I was in my education is history and poli sci, but I never did anything with those degrees. I ended up in sales. So I've been in higher management and executors and executive positions throughout my years. And I think about it all started around the COVID era where where I started seeing a change in life, and I life was a lot much easier for me. I had a lot of isolation opportunity where I sat in the room quietly, and and I noticed that I wanted to change my life more than just the corporate world, and so I started to write books. Um, It was just a it was that's where it started, really. I mean, I've always written throughout my life, but never public, never out to people. Maybe a few people might have read a couple things, but not like what they're reading today. Today is a a big, huge step forward that I had big time. So it's really a passion of just becoming. I just want to do this. Like one of the things I was talking about, my friend, he was like, "Well, what do you really want to do?" And I said, honestly, I just want to travel the world and write about cultures and let like the historical content behind it, the why people live the way they do, and kind of just submerge myself in that life for a while and then just write about the daily things. And that's what I'm starting doing with that with daily inspirations. I'm starting to kind of do that through other creators and other people that I work through Substack or people I meet on other social media platforms or even in person. I write about their pain, their love, their joy, their whateverism, and hopefully that I can translate into a story that other people can hear that too and resonate with it and have some reflection. So, yeah.
So tell us, how does this writing uh, translate to your personal life? How does it transform your life?
It has changed me a lot and as a person because when you write the content that I write, it's not as it's very inspirational and it's very uplifting and it's I wanted to write like what we watch as kids, and I'm a Gen Xer, so we watched like Little House of Prairies, the Waltons, the very good feeling movies and shows that we got to see when we were younger. And I wanted to write something like that in today's contents, but using today's issues and today's stuff and trying to help that out. So it's kind of like, so the writing part is kind of changed, but it's not just the writing; it's the people I get introduced. Like, I met Gino, who's a gay therapist, and he's out there tells you exactly who he is, and I met him, and we've become friends. Outside of that world, we probably never become friends. But we connect, we talk, and that's about connection. And that's what my stories are about, is connecting with people. It's about connecting with issues and seeing it from all perspectives and kind of like it's not it's not black and white. There's a lot of grays and it's just very transformable when for me because it just makes me, and don't get me wrong, I still have old habits. We're not always perfect, and so but these stories remind me how to be my better person every day.
And I think that's important for a lot of people, okay? And we can see that in notes. We can see that in Substack in general, okay? That people gravitating towards this is because everybody's trying is grieving, and people are in need of healing and connection. And so that's why people turn off the news, and you see that Substack is going to continue to grow as a result,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the news, I mean, well, I was in publication earlier on in my life. That's where I ended up in my career. And one of the things until 2008, and then that changed everything. Um, but in publication, we used to have a good feel story once in a while put in somewhere in the section of the newspaper. And people would actually gravitate to that. And people would actually say, hey, we want more content like that. But then there was this other aspect of sales when it comes to selling a newspaper, tragedy, all that sells too. So you had to have a mixture of both. But your headlines, I remember we worked on headlines all the time, and we would argue the 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 messier the better. You make it glory that the picture's got to be big, and so you had some visuals. But but in today's world, I don't see that being like the top of people's minds, because I think they've been for the last, I say, 20 years, people have kind of gotten to the point where, especially social media has really hypered that up, where people kind of feel boxed in, I would say, a little more created anger. And I think from a human perspective, we want to have something more than just what we see every single day. And And I think it's just a human instinct of wanting something more of who we are, but mostly who are the people around us. And that's why you see a lot of, like, people researching about, narcissism. Not everybody's a narcissist, but they're researching that. Divorce is up. So people are looking for stories of how to be better people in certain situations so that they don't encounter. Now, if you look at from the negative point of view, the best thing to do is just create conflict between each other. And then that's how you solve that problem. But if you look at the different perspective, where if I was writing it, I would say, okay, all right, these are the things how you can help yourself through this situation. This is what you're going to recognize, but how do you overcome your personal discomfort? Because reality is we can only control our surface, our sphere, no one else's. So if someone's going to be mean to you, then are you going to react to it? And that's really what mm, a lot of what my writing is about. But it's also about connecting and seeing those things too. And how do you understand it before you're understood? Um, I can also relate about divorce because I'm a single father, divorced, and it was one of the most brutalest divorce that I can ever imagine. And I would sit there and, you're in the thick of things. And the problem is that when you're in the thick of things, you don't see yourself doing good or bad. You're always thinking you're doing good, and you're always right. It's always about winning. It's about winning at all cost. And a lot of our conversations are like that today. It's winning at all cost. And that's just hurts us as people.
I can't agree with you more, but we are in desperate times at this point. And even myself being taking an early retirement, I feel that I'm at some instances I'm at that stage as well. Okay. And a lot of people will not take action until they're forced to. Okay. And then at that time, you make the decision that may be the wrong one.
Yeah.
Okay, because you want to make a decision from a position of strength versus a position of weakness or desperation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I failed. I can't tell you how many times I failed as a person. Um, I mean, you're only getting the better version of me. How's that? Um, I mean, I still work through it all. Um, the only thing I mean, it's just you got to work on yourself. That's the hardest part that most people, um, I keep going back to my divorce. I guess that's the best reference where, you know, we were we were in therapy and I said, "Well, I believe we're both wrong." And she said, "I believe he's wrong." And I knew that this therapy would not work because you know, to really make this better, you have to have both people agreeing at some point where they're at as people. Like, so for example, if someone says, it's always your fault and they don't take any accountability, no nothing, and you are giving and saying, you know what, I do agree there is some things I can improve on. And I don't think the situation is not all you, it's all on both of us. You know, you gotta listen to that type of language. If that person is all in an, it's lose-win situation, then you're always gonna be in a situation where you're gonna lose in that relationship. And so you have to come back and say, "Okay, is it worth having that relationship?"
Absolutely. Do you love yourself? Okay. When you recognize that this is a no-win situation, then only way forward is out,
Right.
right?
Well, yeah, when I during the COVID, that was probably oof, that was some hard reflection because I was in an apartment by myself, family members like 3,000 miles away. My kids are with the ex, with her mother. And I was there by myself, isolated. No, and I was sick too. I was sick for like 3 or 4 months. And by myself, just trying to recover, trying to figure it all out. And when the thing is that when you sit alone in a room with and I'm not a big person with cable and all that, but so I don't really have TV on Netflix, but I got sick of it, I got tired of it, and even with Facebook, I got tired of it. I just went anti-media big time, and I just went sat with myself. When you do that, that's probably the hardest realization of who you are as a person because now that your thoughts are just you, yourself, and I, and you got to sit there and think about all the things you did and how do you want to be better. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't. Don't get me wrong, I'm still learning from that time. But if I look at myself 5 years from now, from today, I'm a completely different person entirely. Um, it's just how you go about life, I guess, is that's how and I wrote something just the other day. I mean, we're all good people. Yeah, we all try to be good people. And then there's always those who are not good. But then you have to decide, are you surrounding yourself with good people? Are you around people that are good? And that's what I love about Substack because everyone everybody has a diverse background. And I'm sure that if we all learn about our background, which I think we've been very protective of it, and I don't mean this to be rude. I think most of us would not associate with ourselves outside this platform. I think we would all be alienated because of our beliefs, values, or whatever, and we're not taking the character of that person and learning about that person as they are. But with Substack, what it does, you're forced to write out your feelings. You're forced out to write out your values. You're forced out to your morals, and you're not masking it. It's who you are as a person. All you do is you chose not to bring in maybe politics and religion, the two things. Some of us do, and some of us don't. Um, but that's the way it is. I mean, that's how. I just you have to be very careful as yourself. As how do you protect yourself from people that are want to hurt you? and that's where it comes from.
That's a good question because I'm gonna tell you the people that hurt us the most is the ones that's the closest to us, honestly. Because anybody else, I don't give a damn about them.
Yeah,
Okay, you can
yeah.
say what you want, whatever, move on.
Well,
Okay,
I'll give you a good example right now. I have a family member who um who can be very snarky and very rude.
okay.
I mean, deliberately rude. And I don't know if it has to do with whatever childhood issues, whatever. I don't really care. And and one of the things is, I don't really want to be around that person. I don't like that person. I really just don't like them. But for the greater good, how do I still be involved without being with that person with that person in that room? Because there's other people that I'm there for, not for that person. So I struggle with that. Like I don't know how to handle that. Like I'm literally sitting there going like, how do I figure this out without alienating everybody else other than not getting mad with that person. And then everybody tells me, well, that's who they are. And I said, no, that's not who they are. They're being rude. And that's being considerate. That's being disrespectful. Stop giving excuses or a way out for behaving that way. And so it's a lot of, I mean, it's a family member. And how do I solve it? And I'm still wrestling with that. So, I mean, that's a life experience that I'm giving that I struggle with. And I'm sure everybody else is struggling with the same thing. So all you have to do is like you have to think of and I think you have to be a stronger person and when it comes to that. And I don't and what that means, I just don't know yet.
Well, um, what I can say is I'm not close to my family at all. Okay, because of the sins of my father. Okay, he decided he wanted to ordained father, minister father. He wanted to have relationships outside of his marriage and end up getting one of these women's pregnant, and that was me, the child. Okay, and so I am the one ostracized from all sides of the family because of what he did. Okay, so I don't have that. I don't have a family
Um,
to rely on. Just maybe my daughter
we're
and
family.
my
We're
niece.
family now.
Yeah, there you go. We're family, right? So I'm just saying what I'm saying to you is just because somebody say they're your blood, they don't mean that they're gonna be there for you.
Right.
Okay,
So
so
Sarah said with hard boundaries. I agree with that. You got to have boundaries with people, especially people who are close to you. You just can't have people just give you a hard time, but I agree with that. But yeah, with your family situation, I'm sorry about that. That must be tough.
it is tough, but it is what it is. So that made me very, very mentally tough and resilient.
Mhm.
So So, uh, so I was like, okay, either you with me or you're not. If you're
Yeah.
with me, brother, let's walk the path together. And I got you
Yeah.
100%. Okay, that's where I'm at today.
And that's where I think as you get older, the circumstances of appeasing everybody kind of goes away because you're no longer needing the gang of 8 to make you as a whole. You're looking for people that you can enjoy time with, you can celebrate the important things of life and just experience life in a different way. And I think that's where as you get older, that cycle of I mean, don't get me wrong, you still have acquaintances, but you always will have a core with you all the way through your life. And I kind of shed a lot of friends over the past few years and people I'm close to. It's not hard, it's not easy, but you have to it's so two so I this is funny. I'll tell you what I used to do, and I haven't done it for a while. Every year I would name and this is the reason why I don't wanna do this anymore. Every year I would name the year, and I would
Okay.
say, prosperity, um, better father, or something along a theme that year that I want to be, focused on and to be. So one year I asked for peace. And it wasn't the peace that I was looking for. Because in the end, peace means you have to go through a bunch of stuff to get peace.
Okay.
Like, you gotta go through some heart-wrenching things, like challenges, and for me, it was I was engaged with somebody, that broke off. I had child custody, and it would just turn into co-parenting was such a toxic situation that was hurting the kids more than benefiting me and the ex. So I had to choose to say, "Okay, I have to let go in hopes and play the long game more or less for the kids and let them have some type of stability and something." So but I still had custody in a sense, and I still had the rights and all that stuff. I didn't forego all that. Um, but then I had, I moved to within my fiance. We broke up. I had to move out. I mean, there was some, like, I got a new job. My dad had cancer. I mean, there was a lot of things going on. I was flying back home to Canada a couple times. It was then all that was happening, and then in about 2000 when COVID hit, that's where I found peace.
Well,
So, it
we were
it
shut down.
it took all that to get there, but on top of that but as I was going through all that, things I picked up was writing. Things I picked up was painting. I started painting. Now I don't know if you see, this is one of my paintings back here. But I started painting, and someone says, "Well, are you an artist? Have you painted before?" I said, "Never painted in my entire life. This is the first time I'm doing this." And they were kinda, like, shocked. And writing, same thing, people are starting to read my stuff and started kinda like, "Wow, this is good things," and it took a while because I wasn't a strong writer per se, because I didn't allow myself to be a strong writer. I guess it's the mindset of me. And then eventually, as I learned to be better at it, I became better at writing, and because I got more confidence in the end. So so when I was naming the years, I w when I named peace because I wanted, and the reason why I wanted peace between my ex and I, so my kids
Of
can have
course.
room to breathe,
Mhm.
and that did not happen. And so you can call it whoever it is, the higher up said, "You know what? We're gonna teach you peace, and this is how it'll look like." So, now think about it. Now, every time I see something down the road and I see all these red flags, I think to myself, "Do I wanna go through that again to find peace?
Mm.
Or do I stop it now and still create peace for myself?" And that's where my mind has now gotten to the point where do I really wanna do that or do I wanna do this? So,
I hear you. When you talk about peace, I um I realized that I couldn't find that peace in other individuals. I had to find it within myself. Okay.
mm, yeah.
And when okay, and so when I decided to take the early retirement, I no longer could I had to face all of these demons. Okay. I can no longer block it out because I was working. I blocked everything out. Now I have to sit in all of this crap. I have to dissect it, okay, and r- get rid of all the things that are not serving me anymore, okay, and realign myself, okay, with the new me
Mm,
as I figure out who that is, okay, because I've been this person, I've been forced to be this person, live in this box for 39 years. And to get out of that box and come out into the world, it's like a fish out of water. Okay? It's like, what the
mm,
heck? Okay.
yeah. But a lot of people that transition after a long career like that is very hard. It's challenging. And I don't mean that to be negative but when you go from that type of career into something completely different, that's a huge transitional period of time, and you're not giving yourself that break, which is great. You're just saying, "I gotta go," and that's awesome. So, but a lot of things but for 39 years, you've created a lot of habits in those 39 years, good or bad, you know,
Both.
both. And now you gotta move forward with that, and the only thing you gotta figure out is what are the goods that you wanna carry forward, and that's the challenge.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is, I'm recollecting everything because when you work for the military, constantly moving. You have things over here, things over here, things over here. You recollect everything you get together that you've collected over the course of your life. And I'm going through everything, and
Yeah,
the tears are coming, because I'm seeing all of these things, bringing back all of these memories of all the people that I served with in Iraq on all those different tours. The two tours that
yeah,
I was on, and the relationships that I made with those people. And what we do is we have a Facebook group with all these people, and when somebody die or their anniversary or birthday, we celebrating each other because we were there together. Those were very difficult times, okay? And we held each other up. We were there for each other. If say for example, John is not here. Okay, we're going to his room and see where he's at. Okay, make sure he's okay. Okay, because not just physically okay, mentally okay. Because the things that we were going through was very, very troubling. For people that never been outside of their environment into a war zone. It's like, whoa. Okay, so you have to have your wits about you. So we need everybody on board. Okay, everybody. We bring everybody.
wow. So, yeah, that's the one thing about combat, that's interesting. One of the things that when I was much younger in the historical world, I thought war was the end was a good source to solve problems. So, until I went to West Germany.
Okay.
So, I can say this, I've been on to 3 is it 3 countries that no longer exist? I've been to 3
Mm.
countries. That's right, 3 countries. So, but anyways, when I was in West Germany, the first war, Iraq started to take like the Berlin Wall came down. There's Yugoslavia war. There's a bunch of stuff going on, and there was a build up towards the other war. And I remember there, even seeing the Yugoslavians, the Croatians, and all that. Um, that kind of changed my mind about war. Like
Mm.
it was like it's not as pretty as most people think it is. It's probably the most evil thing that we can do as humans. And it doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't help, it doesn't move the needle unless you really conquer another country. And in today's technology, in today's world, that doesn't happen. And that's probably the hardest thing that we could, you know, the hardest thing that most people do here is if you haven't experienced war, if you haven't seen war or felt war, you're not gonna have an understanding. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some soldiers out there that will go back to battle all the time because
Of course.
that's their DNA. That's who they are, that's
Right.
how they are built. But on a civilian perspective, you're if we're gonna start advocating for war, that's not really connection of life. That's really you're taking life away. You are purposely saying, "I want to kill somebody for the purpose of greed, whatever, or someone else's agenda," and you have you don't feel it because you don't feel it because it doesn't affect you here. I think the only closest thing that we felt any tragedy was 9/11, and that is something I mean, I felt it here. I was on the East Coast, and I can tell you right now, that wasn't the prettiest day at all,
No.
and I remember it like it was yesterday. Just yeah, I remember it like big time. So, I just wish more people were less willing to like, and it comes down to win at all costs. I keep saying that a theme here because that's what it is. Every argument, it's not about a dialogue. It's not about who we are and what we're about and what are the quirks and all that. And let me understand you a little more. And you let me understand it's not that give it. It's all about how can I tear you down fast to be a winner. And that's what all these things look like in our everyday conversations.
It's ego. Okay? It's ego, plain and simple. Okay,
Yeah.
Imma tell you, being in that war, that was an unnecessary war, in my opinion. Okay? Did they ever find any weapons of mass destruction? Was it more of an ego thing to get back at somebody to say, "I am the boss"? Okay? But who paid for that war? We paid for that with our tax dollars, okay, with our retirement money, with the money that we want to have for our children's education. Okay, was it worth it in the end? Because in the end, when we pulled out, they tore everything out that we installed. Okay, and so it's like we never was there. They like we didn't ask you to come here, and they took everything out. All the money that we spent in that war went to naught. Okay? For what?
Yeah. I mean, see, that's where if you're gonna take over a country, take over it, and you become whatever it is. And we as humans don't understand. Like, I think that's where the Western world, like especially America, and I don't mean the diss on Americans or Canadians, but a lot of us in the North America world has never really traveled the world and has never experienced other cultures at all. And if we do, we would be quickly to realize that not all of them are our friends and not all of them want our opinions. And in fact, they will tell you to go pound sand pretty fast, or you find yourself in a jail somewhere. I mean, I
Or
can
or in a ditch or
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 to
in a
this.
in a or in a hole. That's how they feel about Americans, okay? We will come we you come over here, we will kidnap you, we will tell your family to give us $100,000 for your return, and you won't return, okay? Don't be stupid, okay? Get your
Yeah,
money, and that's it. They think we're suckers. They think
yeah.
Americans are suckers. I'm just being honest with you.
I agree. It's just it's no, and we and then I think that's what happens on the internet is like social media is where we think that our opinions, and that's why I try not to write about opinions. That's not my goal. My goal is to inspire. My goal is to open the door up, give people an understanding that there's more than just life within your circle. Like there's more out there. You may not like what I'm going to write about. You're not going to like maybe some of the content that I put out. Like, as like the divorced father angle that I write, the earned not given, which I'm working on. I mean, it has a lot of hard truth in there that is pretty hard for me to write sometimes because it's not it pulls me back in time and kind of like I and it was we were I was with people this week and we were having a conversation and someone said, "Well, I really don't like you being so open about your story." And then someone else, other than me, someone else, "Well, that's him being authentic." He's being authentic because
Mhm.
that's his story, and his story has value. It has some type of, meaning, and hopefully, and then and he just basically said it beautifully. Hopefully, someone else sees it and reads it, they can relate to it and understand how to be a better a better partner, a better father, or maybe it's. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there were days with my kids that I wasn't present because I was battling with the ex. Um, and I write about being present now. You have to be present with your children. You have to make sure that you focus on them because at the end of the day, they're gonna appreciate you more than trying to be the one upper or trying to play the Jones game or whatever. It doesn't work. What they want is your attention, your love, your concern. And, I think that's where so so I write about that stuff, and I write about it because I think it's something worthy. And all these stories that I write is to hopefully shed a light on issues that most people don't understand. And hopefully they take it in and they say, okay, well maybe my opinion is not 100% where it should be. So
And I applaud you, John. You are an amazing writer. You're an amazing person. I see you out there in notes. I see you uplifting people and restacking people's notes. Okay. And sending shouts out to people for the good work that they're doing in the community. And I really appreciate that, you and Liz
thank you.
as well. And people like you. We need more people like you to uplift others. Okay. And that's why we are here. And that's why we tell our story, so that it can help someone else, so that maybe we can save them from some of these things that we've experienced in our lives and make things easier for them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a strong, like, Substack has been really good to me. There's nothing wrong. I've been on this for almost 3 years, 4 years now. I can't remember. But I just feel like I've been on it since yesterday. I really do. And I did take a break. So the way I use Substack is I write stories, obviously, but I also write stories about my books. So, for example, Earned Not Given was actually originated on Substack. And what I do is I put a really rough draft, like an outline of stuff, but when I work on it, so I publish it because it helps me. Well, number one, it helps me to be accountable. Number two, oh, thank you, Simona. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That's my buddy. Um, so, um, so I post on there, and don't get me wrong, they're not clean. It's basically a story, multiple stories, maybe. And then what I do is I post it up there, and I kind of hopefully I get responses and things like that. And people tell me, "Hey, I love this part, didn't love this part," or whatever. And then I take all that information and then I put it into a book, and then I send it to my editor, and they kind of read through it, and they say, "Oh, this is this, and this." And then I take it and then I really go through it, and I start adding content. I started adding the story, like the original copy of Earned Not Given was about 20,000 words. It's over 35,000 words today in a book. So that means I've been, putting a lot in there, and that's because I wanna make sure that this story, because I believe this story is really important for single fathers, co-parenting, because it comes from the time, 2008, 2009. I get fired from publication, and I need to start looking for a new job. I find a small company that actually saved me, um, and small corporation, small little company, maybe 10 or 15 people, and it was a startup, and I didn't know how long it'd last there. But the cool thing about it is that I stayed there for almost 6 years or something like that. But I had the opportunity to grow as a person, deal with my junk that I was dealing with. Because if I would have dealt that with in a corporation, they would never have dealt with some of the stuff I went through. 0. Um, so I'm grateful for all that. And so that's where the book goes, and that's where I think a lot of people, when they go through a struggle like that, I think that's where I think some of your best writing comes from. I really do believe you focus on the things that hurt the most are the probably the best stories you could ever tell, as a writer. and that's from my experience. So,
I agree with that. When you write articles from the heart and you pour out that knowledge and all that pain and tragedy, it gravitates to people and resonates with them, even if they don't respond.
right.
Okay, and to know that your work is touching people gives you the courage and the confidence to continue.
Yeah. I mean, so on Substack, when I started with 100 days, 100 inspirational stories, and um, I created a bunch of stories for 100 days, and then I started playing around with a couple other ones, and it, I don't know, I just didn't, I stopped writing for a bit, and then I got back, and I was like, I started getting a lot of subscribers. So I was like, something's going on here. I got to really go figure this out. And I was like, okay, there's something going on. I'm getting paid. And I'm like, okay, I really need to start putting content out there because it's been like 6 or 7 months. So I need to go back out there and do stuff. And then my first comeback was the Remy's Journey, which was the support dog that we have. And it was a cute little, from adoption all the way to a support dog, how that whole journey. There will be a second book coming out because of it. Um, that really was a really good seller, and it still sells today. I'm very grateful with that one. Uh, and then the second book that came out of it was Dancing Letters, which is a dyslexia kid, which is kind of like referenced me. I kind of like, I mean, the content, it's kind of like not really, it's not me, but it's about me. So, but it talks about how he goes through it and how he finds himself and all that. And that's a really good book. I've got a lot of good hit on that one. And then the Earned Not Given is the one I've been working on. Actually, I was wrong. Rediscovering Vancouver was the one that I actually started to post journals on Substack, and that was before the journey. And that one, when I went back to Vancouver, I did a whole rediscovery. I kind of just want to do what I talked about earlier and just go in and find culture, kind of figure out things. And that's where that came out. And I started posting on Substack, and that got big traction. And I was like, okay, something I'm doing here is working. And I started getting more subscribers and friends and family. When I first originally started with Substack, it was all organic growth, meaning notes did not exist at the time. Um, it was before that. And so I was like soliciting people to subscribe. Like I was going outside and bringing them in. I still kind of do that. So that's where all that. So in my journey on Substack, it kind of just took a pause. It started really heavy, took a pause, and then I started thinking, okay, I need to start working on something here. So that's what I did. So when I look at Substack, sorry, I have to. Um, so when I look at Substack today, I use it more of as a launching pad of my books, and that's how I look at it. So you people who subscribe will get the first read, and then yeah.
That's amazing, John. Are you still also doing your artwork?
So that's been on a pause for a while. I think because I'm just not. Well, I was thinking about the other day. I was like, I really need to get back to painting again. I kind of miss it. It the strange thing about painting, it actually it grounds you because you have to be like I get lost in painting. I can sit there for hours and be oblivious to everybody around me and just tune everybody out. I'm not focused. I'm painting. I'm doing whatever. But I was thinking about that the other day. I really need to start getting back to that. But I I don't know. I haven't really. It hasn't really. Haven't found anything to be inspired to write. I mean, I'm more interested in writing right now than to actually paint. I guess that's where I'm at.
Okay, that one of the things I wanted to point out is that with the writing part, I think that's more of a left brain activity, whereas the painting is more of a right brain activity.
Oh, I see, I would not know that.
Okay, no
It's
problem.
I'm just like to me, it's just like, um and I don't look at them as a task, I look at them as a like, almost like a hobby for me. Like,
Okay.
um, like, writing is a hobby, painting's a hobby. A lot of my interests outside of my day-to-day stuff is mostly hobbies, so and it's very j I find it more joyful that way than make it into a career. Now don't get me wrong, I try to make money off my books and, um, in fact, I spent most of the morning fixing all my campaigns on my advertisement and all that, but I just, I definitely love what I'm doing. I mean, 5, 6 years ago, I didn't love myself a lot.
Mm.
You know, I really did not like me. I did not really like who I was. I wasn't really going anywhere in the sense of personal growth, I guess, or things like that. And I always wanted to do, you know, more. A lot of my writing and my art is about legacy. It's about leaving something behind for my children to read and say, "Oh my god, dad wrote this, my dad painted this." Um, that's really that's really I really want is my kids to actually come back and say, "Well, dad was somebody." And I don't mean like, I mean something, and then rather than having a career and going to work 9 to 5 and going on holidays, I wanted them to come back and say, because there were some fractures in those relationships. I just want them, like, when they're ready to come around, they got places to read, they got sources they can go to and say, "Let me check on this guy. Let me make sure that this guy wasn't what someone said," and I don't wanna use the word, but, um, uh, that's how that's why I'm writing. I'm writing because I'm writing for my kids, more or less.
That's your inspiration, your motivation.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, when we talk about, connecting with others, um, I spent 2 tours in Israel as well.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that was amazing, okay? Having an opportunity to I grew up in the Baptist church, okay? I'm not religious, okay? But I am spiritual, okay? Having an opportunity to walk, the stations of the cross, having an opportunity to go to the Sea of Galilee and where they say Jesus was baptized and going to the inn of the Good Samaritan. Oh, that was symbolic for me, okay? And so when you're approached by a stranger, you don't know who that stranger could be, okay? So you need to be mindful of that, okay? Could be a very valuable lesson for you to take heed of. So I am very cognizant of that, and I try to be um give people the benefit of the doubt until they show otherwise, okay?
Right.
As a
That ac
result.
that actually brings me a good story. So on Rediscovering Vancouver, my last chapter talks about this person I meet on the plane, and we're talking, and he's talking because he sees me writing, and he says, "Well, what are you writing?" And I said, "Well, I'm writing this Rediscovering Vancouver. I got a couple more chapters to go, or a couple more pages to go, and all this stuff." And he goes to me, he goes, "Oh, you're a writer." I said, "Well, let's that's pretty loose of the saying." He goes, "No, you're writing. You're a writer. Are you published?" And he goes, "Well, I have a couple books." "Well, then you're a published author." I said, "Well, it's independent." He goes, "You're a published author. Don't." And then So then we start talking and he goes, "You need to join this organization." I totally forgot what the organization is, but it's this worldwide writing and organization, and it's founded around the world. And he started telling about his story from Beijing, where he was in the revolution and how he went to the square and he saw all that. He was a writer and he wrote all about that. And I was like, wow, I met a writer from the revolution of that time, which is I think it was 1988. I think it was 1989. So that was like, and we all remember that. I mean, those who saw the guy standing in front of the I think it's 80. I might be a little more than that, but in front of the canyon, and he and everybody was getting assassinated. It was just really, really just horrible, and the humanitarian was just crazy. But he started telling me about the stories and all the things about that. And he says, "Yeah, I wrote. There was a lot of us. I had to." He fled from Beijing, China, to Sweden,
Mm.
and that's where he met his wife. And he has a child now, and all that. And we still communicate here and there, not very much, but talking about connections, you don't know who you're going to connect with, and but the only way we connected per se was I left my cat. I was writing. I didn't know he was a very famous writer, more or less. And he's telling me that, you know, we all, if you're writing, you're writing, you're a writer. If you're an author, so don't sell yourself short. And that's where he was very, very it was a very touching moment because, when you look back on your path, whatever that looks like, you're gonna see these moments and people that come into your life and give you a little bit here, a little bit there. And they're seeds to keep you going. So when you talk about me restacking or commenting on people, it's not that I just do that for the sake of doing it, because I could do that all day long and whatever. I do that because either I found something very interesting, or the person that I'm interested in who writes it is one of those individuals that I find to be inspiring as themselves, because they do more than most on this app. And then there's others who are just, I met this other great little artist writer. I think her name is Allison, but she's witty, she's funny, she's charming, she's has some truth behind her. When you read it, puts a smile on my face all the time, and it's a joy. It's a true joy to read, people and so many things. And there's other people that are, very dark writing, and they have really good content too, and they're good writers. So when I restack, or I do that because I want them to be elevated. I want them to have more, because we've all been there. We've all been the ones and two subscribers. We've been in the nines or whatever, or less than 100. Um, and my philosophy has always been is you help others along the way.
Absolutely.
And that's really what I'm about. And, if someone, I don't get me wrong, I've come across a couple people who I had to block because they were, or I just disconnected with them because I just felt that they weren't what I wanted to be in a community with. And they could be other communities elsewhere, but I didn't want to be, I- I think building a community means something, and
It does.
you're trying to protect the ecosystem of that, right? And people, and some people are just bring the old habits from Twitter or Facebook or whatever they're doing, and they bring it on here, and and they don't really understand the value behind being a substacker, I guess. We're not here to spam. We're not here to talk down. We're not here to to do that. And I think that's where I take the initiative of trying to help others along the way and give back as much as it given to me. So the more I do that, the better it is. And I want that to be a legacy on Substack that I'm known that, okay, he's going to help you grow. Like there was one lady who I didn't really know she had dyslexia until she told me. So what did I do? I pulled out some videos because I know being dyslexic, it's hard to read sometimes. You kind of go, what? So I told her how to enable her voice, how to, what to look for. So if she goes in there, she can hear it and follow the story. Like that's what I do is I listen to the story. And the more people do that, the better it is for people like myself and other people like that. And there was really no reason for me to help her other than me saying to her, I'm helping you because I want you to be a better subscribe. I want you to be a better person on Substack to push your content. Because I think it doesn't matter if you're 5 to 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, or 2 or 3. We're on this journey together and we're here to help each other. And your competition is not my competition. Because, like I said, there's so many writers and so many spectrums. Like you might have a dark writer and they have an audience to themselves. That's who they write. If you have an audience over here who's all about poetries and all that, that's not always about me, but I don't mind a good poetry, thing here and there, but that's someone else. That's all them. I'm a little different. I think mine's a little bit, I found a niche for myself. And I don't think a lot of people do that on Substack. I mean, they kind of do it in a little different ways. They'll write about their discipline and write about certain things, but mine's more of a broad, but if you didn't look at it, it's more inspirational. So that's where I think Substack, if we all focused on that, that we all come together as a community, knowing that it doesn't matter where you're at, we're all here to supporting. So when I help that lady out, it's supporting the community. It's helping her be a better person and helping her, and she might find her niche. I might have a few subscribers that might follow her versus following me. Is that a problem? No, it's not, because you always will pick up the ones that want to be with you, not the ones that don't want to be with you.
Absolutely. And I'm all about supporting other people. When they rise, I rise. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, it's simple, okay? So why wouldn't I want to help you, okay,
right.
to rise, okay? And I'm always about helping people, empowerment, okay? We're all an empowered leader, okay? So uh, giving people the tools and resources they need to be successful, and that's why we're here, okay?
Yes. And
All
that's
right.
what I think that's how I mean, I don't do that. I don't think of myself a leader on Substack. That's not how I look at it. I look at more of like, we're all here together. Let's just help each other.
Okay.
And if that's a leadership role, that's great. But I don't know. I just look at it as more of, brotherly love, helping each other along the way, helping your
So
neighbors.
it's the same thing. Whatever
Yeah.
you call it, it's the same thing,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Potato, it's the same.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I hope everybody that's listening understands that, by helping each other, you're only creating better space for yourself. You
Exactly.
get more recognition. People are gonna be more gravitating towards you if they see you not just like I can tell you right now, there's a lot of people out there that just will just dump their content under other people's just to get hits. And sometimes that's not always the best thing because it will not that it matters to me, but what it does is it just it doesn't give the respect to that person who's posted something. Because that person posted something that should get attention and should get some value. That's why I either risk stack it or I make a comment or whatever because they deserve to be noticed first. You know, it's not about finish. There is no finish line here. We're all this together. We're all coming into this as a team, as a community, and we really should be thinking that way.
Absolutely, John. Do you well, we're talking about uplifting stories and connecting with others, and what I would say to that is during my time in Israel, both tours, okay, I went the first time, and it was a very difficult time for me, you
Mm.
know. Uh, but I had very good times, and I've met some very good friends as a result of that experience. Okay. And we're still friends today. And a couple I met over there, Israeli couple, they befriended me and they made me come to Shabbat dinners, and I went to Passover with them, and they're amazing. They're coming here to Alaska next year, and I told them I would definitely meet with them. Okay, and I love them to death. Okay, and they're from my family,
No, there you
and
go.
I love all people, until you show yourself unworthy, then I have a problem,
Yeah, I
okay?
think
So
that's hard. When someone doesn't show
yeah, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. And the reason I can be so open-minded about different things and people is because of my traveling overseas. It makes you much more humble. It makes you much more it broadens your horizons. It makes you realize how small-minded we are, how narrow-minded we are.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah. 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 Yep. I totally agree with that. That's something that, I mean, I traveled across this country, North America. I've been to multiple, countries. I mean, it's just when you look at us and you look at other people and you go in their culture and you go in their world, you're taking you're you're learning about yourself more by engaging with others when you're more open to accept their differences. And sometimes it's not the easiest thing. Don't get me wrong. You could be an Islam blue, and you might have a completely different experience. You might have a Muslim, you might have a Christian, you might have a Jew, and they all have different experience living in Turkey. All I'm just saying is that if you're not going there with open-mindedness and you're not going there with conditions or whatever the case may be, you're not gonna understand that world. I mean, I can tell you right now, traveling through Switzerland and Austria, East Germany, West Germany, well, now Germany now, and Yugoslavia, and now it's like Croatia and all those other ones, and Italy and France, all those countries have their own identity and they have their own culture. But within those cultures, within that country, I mean, you might have like 4 or 500 different dialects in a country. You might have 4 or 500 different dishes. You might have 4 different types of traditions and Christmas might be different, especially in Italy. Christmas might be completely different in Sicily than it is up in Milan. 2 different types of Christmas. You might go to Germany and you might have a different type of Christmas. Like, I'm just using Christmas as an example. And you might go to Britain and you might have a completely different experience on Christmas as well. So the thing is about connecting with people, and I think that's really what we're talking about, is we have to learn to be a lot more like seek to understand before you're understood. And that's where our premise of life should start. The more we do that, the more we'll have a better understanding who we are because now we're understanding others along the way. And that's really the power of connecting when you truly connect. And, not a lot of people know how to do that. I'm still learning and I'm loving it because it actually helps me to become a better person.
Yes, it does. And while I was in Israel, I also went to the Bedouin camp. Okay, stayed there overnight. Okay, I wanted to have the, lunch in the desert. I did that. I wanted to experience as much as I can. Okay. Uh got into the Dead Sea. You can float. You cannot sink. Okay, because of the amount of salt in the water. So all of these experiences, okay, it it enriched my life. Okay. And I came back a different person. When you come back to your environment and then people are like, dang, you different. What's going on? Yeah, I saw things, I did things, and it, it's I'm a new person. You are. You are.
Yeah.
You're not the same person. And that's what I love about traveling. Okay.
Yeah, so I actually booked I booked before COVID, I booked a trip to London, and a friend said, "Well, I wanna come with you," and I said, "No, you're not." And he said, "Why?" I said, "No, this is a John travel moment. This is John going out and discovering." Because I used to like, when you travel and you did a lot of backpack, I think I wrote down, like, when you go out and when you travel and you don't have anything to hold you down and you're going from town to all that, that's a different experience than going to vacation, because there's 2 different things. And so I wanted just to get in the plane. I didn't care I got I got a motel for like $35 or $40 pound, which was might have been $50 a night. And I got a cheap flight out of Newark, which was about $400. So my flight and my accommodation all cost me less than $800 for 10 days. And I just walked London everywhere. I went everywhere. I mean, I was all over the place, and I must have walked at least 20,000 plus steps a day, over that maybe. And I got to meet some really cool people, and I got to see some really cool things, but I did it on my terms, because if I would have had somebody there, then I would have had to bring them along. I would have to, we would have had to compromise. What do we wanna do? What do we wanna do? And I and because that's what you do with people when you go out traveling. Sometimes that's why I love traveling by myself, because I don't have to I'm not accommodating anybody. I'm just accommodating me. And I may be selfish, but, when I came back from that trip, I was a completely different person. In fact, I was in another relationship at the time in between, and that ended because of that. But, it is what it is, you know?
It is. It is. You keep living, you keep evolving. We're going to
Yeah.
continue to evolve. And if not, then we're stagnated and we don't want that.
No.
Um, is there anything else, John, that you would like to share with us today?
No, but I wanna say thank you. This has been great. Hopefully, everybody has enjoyed the conversation, and, I know we went around a bunch of stuff, um, but all I can say is, if you're on Substack, thank you, but also be mindful of helping others along the way. That's all I ask.
I want to thank everybody that joined us on this live today. Thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you today. And stay encouraged.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Yes.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.